world of investors and founders of future innovations. We discuss upcoming Pitch4Capital demo days, the start of 30 days of private investor meetings, and mentoring for registered founders who have between $100,000 and $20 million in revenue in the last 12 months. Registered founders and event supporters are scheduled to appear on the show. Also, welcome to our Pitch4Capital Lunch and Learn show, where we delve into the world of investors and founders of future innovations. We discuss upcoming Pitch4Capital demo days, the start of 30 days of private investor meetings, and mentoring for registered founders who have between $100,000 and $20 million in revenue in the last 12 months. Registered founders and event supporters are scheduled to appear on the show. Also, founder demo days are live streamed on Kern.al. Kernal is a consolidated space for creatives to find, share, and grow startup ideas, to help founders connect with capital and investors connect to concepts and spot where the biggest opportunities are. Step into the forefront of innovation as we delve into the ever-evolving landscape of technology, blockchain, AI, sustainability, smart cities, and more. And everyone registered gets to relax and network at our CEO Social.io Web3 Wednesday happy hours at top conferences in great cities. They are designed to support local venues in a casual, business-informal setting, and we give our attendees, including our members, 90 seconds to let us know who they are and what they do. Whether you're an investor seeking the next big opportunity, a founder with a groundbreaking idea, or a business that supports innovation, we have events and live streams to connect, learn, and thrive. I'm thrilled to introduce our esteemed co-hosts, David Whiting and Shai Perednik. And that's all for today.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, David.
Welcome to the show. Hi, how you doing, Shai?
Good. How's everybody today?
Hi, great. I'm doing fine. Great to have you here. Basically, what we're doing every week, and now we're into our third week, and what we're doing every week is talking about a topic that is really kind of like a hot topic, what everyone's usually talking about, current event. So, last week was consensus that's coming up. And then, what we want to talk about, we did the introduction in the first week of like a guide. And now what's been very popular is healthcare and blockchain. So one of the first events that we did back in 2018 involved blockchain and healthcare. So, I asked everyone to hopefully, take the time to subscribe to our channel. So you make sure that you check out all the old videos and the new content that's coming on there. Because what we want to do is re-update today now blockchain, the future of healthcare. That was one of the most popular watched videos that we have on the YouTube channel. So we want to add to that and do an update on blockchain and healthcare. It's been very important, and there's a lot of use cases that are out there. So we're just going to get to it right now. And what I'll do is put the slides on and then be able to talk with Shai about this. And basically, what we want to talk about is the future of blockchain and healthcare. So basically, this presentation is a Thursday Lunch and Learn live stream. And what we want to do this week is talk about the future of blockchain and healthcare. And basically, there's a lot of different use cases that are out there. There's a lot of resources that are out there. So, what we want to do is, what we will have is the source material behind all of these presentations. So what we're doing is we're using, the latest technology to help put together these slides. And we do have the source material behind all these slides. So they'll all be available to you. And what we want to do is now talk about the future of blockchain in healthcare. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Shai about understanding blockchain technology, blockchain's impact on healthcare, and overcoming barriers to adoption. So right now in the first section that we want to talk about is basically because, each one of these shows are separate shows in and of themselves. So, we usually might go over the same topics over again a few times. So just please be patient if you heard this already. But, there might be people who are just seeing this as a separate show for the first time. So we want to go back over things that we have repeated already that Shai has talked about. But it's important, to every show that we don't know where people are watching. So we're going to go over understanding blockchain technology again, so people can understand the basis and where we're coming from.
Yeah, and this
so
is
basically, kind of the basics of blockchain. And go ahead, and then you can interject here. Great.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here and share. So I'll say it in a different perspective. Right? I try every kind of show that we do to give different analogies or a different perspective on what blockchain is. And so a way to think of blockchain is it's a decentralized network of servers, computers, and nodes. Those nodes, as I mentioned, can be servers, they can be computers, they can be desktops, laptops, they can be anything. So you think back to, many years ago when we had Napster, we had other distributed networks. The idea is that this is a network of nodes again, and those nodes are interconnected. The main thing is that their underlying data layer, or the blockchain, is what's shared amongst all these nodes in the network. Now, we rely on cryptography. We're not going to get that deep in this show, but we rely on cryptography primitives to ensure that each user has a key, and that user has a key to their data that's residing on that node. And therefore, because you have that key, only you can unlock and view that data. So that's a key component of blockchain that we're not going to dig into today. But the important part to understand is that you have these nodes in the network, and their goal and responsibility is that things happen on the network. We call those things transactions when somebody interacts. And that's one of the key features of a blockchain network, is the ability that when somebody transacts on that network, we have this underlying distributed ledger that is recording those transactions. Now, one of the key things, again, there's different consensus mechanisms. How does the network come to an agreement on the validity of a transaction? For example, when I submit a transaction that says that a particular value moves from one account to another account, or a key to another key, how does the network come to an agreement that that's a valid transaction? So proof of work is what's commonly used in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many others are what's called proof of stake. The short of it is that the network has to come to an agreement. And so in the case of Bitcoin, one node will run a mathematical computation where it's trying to calculate a hash. It's trying to get a guess at a certain value within the network. And the underlying protocol, the network, decides how difficult it is to guess that hash. You can think of this like a puzzle where you're trying to pick up puzzles. You're trying to pick up puzzle pieces, but you're looking at the back of the puzzle piece. You don't know where it goes, and you're completely picking it at random. You may get lucky. You may not get lucky that you find the right piece or not. And so that's the key thing with Bitcoin, is that it does, or any proof of work network, once a miner finds that particular hash, they are then allowed to add that block to the network, and then that's how they're rewarded. That's also part of how the network comes to an agreement as part of its consensus protocol. So that's a good high-level overview with some detail into consensus. We can certainly move into the next one. We talk about patient protection and data security, and then I'll dig into the security side a little more. I might have lost David here. All right. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, but yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to direct and do things at the same time. Sorry. Yeah. So basically, I just want to interject. We went to the next slide. Is what I like about blockchain that attracted me to it is being immutable and transparent. So once the data is recorded, it can't be altered or changed. That's very important, coming from an audit trail and coming from the aspect of having transactions and recording transactions, so that you can trust in the programming and in that layer, whether it's block or Bitcoin or whatever that layer is, that you can trust in that it's being recorded properly and that it can't be changed, because that's what a lot of things can be done that can really mess up a lot of records and bookkeeping, a lot of failures and bank transactions, and a lot of bank failures have been based because they can change the data so quickly and falsify information. So it's very important that blockchain is used in the right way, and that's the great way that it can be used. That really attracted me to it in the first place. And now we can get to the next slide to talk about enhancing the data and the security. Sure.
Yeah, so I'll go off what you were saying there a little bit, right? From the data security side and the data immutability, right? That's a very key feature of blockchain, is that inability to go back and change old data. Data is only appended and added to the chain, right? And that's a very key feature of blockchain that we take advantage of when we talk about things like data protection, and particularly patient data protection. Because as I go to the doctor, my records over time are changing, right? There's different data about me, about my height, my weight, my back health, my distance between my vertebrae, and all these different things. And you want to make sure that that data is preserved in posterity, so that you can see the audit trail of that history of how the patient, maybe their ailment grew or changed over time. The other part too is because the underlying what I talked about before, that key. So when data is written to a blockchain network, it is encrypted with a key that I own, right? And that key, you can think of like a key in a safety deposit box. If only I have that key, only I can open that box. It doesn't matter if David's holding that box. He can't do anything with it because he doesn't have that key. So in the case of healthcare records, particularly, this ability to be able to give access as needed on demand to a doctor is a big deal that we don't have today. The fact that you can revoke access to certain medical records because you own that underlying key and you control that underlying access. That's a big deal. And then that's what enables the interoperability, or that ability to really take your data and go between different doctors. If you had an eye doctor and you didn't like that eye doctor, they don't own your underlying records. You own them, and you give that eye doctor access. So you want to go to a different doctor, you just revoke access and permit access to the new doctor. It's a great opportunity to not only secure our records, but enable and ensure that healthcare professionals only have access to the data that they need, and not a bunch of superfluous data that is at risk if it gets out. Any comments there, and then we'll get to drug traceability?
Yes. Yeah, and that aligns with the HIPAA rules and regulations that currently exist. So protection of patient data is very important, and it streamlines right into the HIPAA rules. So it can make sure that healthcare costs are very high, and by protecting data protection and protecting the data, you can lower the cost by using blockchain. But we can talk about that at another time. But that's another use case that it can be used for. Yes. And then, we want to address the challenges now.
Yeah, I mean, some of the challenges that we've seen as the tech is trying to be adopted is under regulatory requirements. One of the biggest challenges, for example, with the blockchain signature, whether it's actually recognized as a legal signature or not. If I remember correctly, the e-signature laws of 1999 or so do not include, cannot include blockchain because that tech was not there, so it was not defined. So as of today, if you're in a state in the US, for example, or in a different country, where a blockchain transaction or signature is not considered a legal tender or legal transaction, then that signature is therefore null and void. So that's one of the challenges. Signatures in healthcare and approval and authority authentication is key. And so the laws need to change, and there are some bills that propose that, which will hopefully change and make things like a blockchain signature a recognized legal document. So that's a simple one that we still need to answer. There's things like HIPAA laws, and when you have an audit against a HIPAA, when you have an audit against your HIPAA requirements as a medical provider, those audits are generally written for on-premise data centers, cloud data centers like AWS, Azure, GCP. there's generally no language in there around blockchain security and how do you guarantee a patient's data on a blockchain network. And so that's something that's very difficult as well. How do you go back to an auditor and show that? Those are some things that the industry is still working on, but it is a concern for a lot of healthcare providers. Part of that challenge as well is the technical complexity here of the underlying technology itself as well. So healthcare is already a complex ecosystem of tools and heavily regulated tools. And so as part of that challenge is how do you integrate blockchain, which in itself is complex. Even if we take away any of the currency and digital asset portions and only focus on the tech of a private blockchain network, there is still the complexity of setting that up. As an example, with private blockchain networks in healthcare as well as supply chain, the challenge is always getting members on the rest of the network. Part of the idea of a private blockchain network versus database is because you want that data to be accessible across multiple parties. Well, part of the challenge then is getting those multiple parties to agree on implementing that technology within their stack as well. So that's something that we've always seen as a challenge. Finally, the cultural shift really is when we talk about the permissionless side, we talk about the currency side, we talk about the culture of really Gen Alpha and Gen Z and their perspective on loyalty, where they're not loyal to any particular apps. They move between different content and platforms at will and share material and content wherever they need to share it. So it's going to take time for that culture to get into the age where they're owning their medical records and they're demanding that same capacity and ability to of interoperability to move the records between one location to another. So it's that cultural shift of where the current medical users are, where they're sort of used to the medical records and used to the current system, that will have to change over time. We can go to the next one here, and I'll continue kind of on the education awareness part.
Yes. Yes, I agree with all that. Yeah, it's going to take time with the addressing these challenges, and and it's a lot of it is generational. And just how people just have the ability and being comfortable with using the technology. I definitely agree with that. And so what we want to do is go to the road of adoption. So and now we're talking about the education and awareness, collaboration and partnerships, and then and then we can talk about use cases and studies. There's a lot of those on the internet, but we can talk about some of those here also.
Yeah. So Dave, I think I'm curious to hear your perspective. Right? How do you see or where do you see opportunities to drive education in healthcare when it comes to blockchain specifically? Is that running webinars, roundtables?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So basically, I was just thinking about is a lot of ways to have ability to have access to different courses and different types of lessons and courses now using Web2, Web3 technologies that you'll be able to combine a lot of technologies now and be able to provide workshops, courses, and different things that are online and combine them with a lot of them can be in person also. So we can have the ability and the flexibility for the student to learn at their pace and learn, based on the type of access that they have to the internet. And like you said, as people are getting younger and the younger generations moving forward, they'll be used to having more different types of lessons and access to information.
Yeah, and I think the access to information right around the awareness part is what's really key and important, because the awareness portion, right? Once healthcare professionals are more aware of the blockchain use cases, where it makes sense, where it's adding value to the users, where patients are getting a benefit from that blockchain technology. It's not that the healthcare professionals are going to care that there's blockchain there, but when there's that cool new use cases that's enabling a patient to move between doctors and accelerate their healthcare, we need to talk about how blockchain is part of that and enables that, right? So people start to hear that messaging that blockchain is not only cryptocurrency, that it is enabling these kind of things. So I believe awareness is a challenge that we still have in the industry because of just how deep blockchain is within the tech stack. Databases have never been a part of a sexy conversation, and blockchain falls in the same layer. So it's part of the challenge there. I think one of the ways to change it, right, I think is kind of what we're doing here. It's collaboration, right? It's collaborating across different industries. You and I getting together, talking about some of these challenges. Other people in this industry getting together and tackling these challenges. But from a partnership side, do you feel it's key that we see more healthcare providers partnering with the traditional consulting partners, the big four type of consulting partners, or do we think that it's key that they partner with some novel, bleeding edge technology consulting partners and try to blaze the path? Curious what you think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to have a consortium of public and private sector. So if, like you said, if there can be like a consulting group, like a Accenture or Deloitte or something like that, that can bring together the government agencies, because the government agencies are very important in healthcare. Now that you have, the way that medicine is distributed and then the way the pricing is, you can't do it without the government. So the government has to be involved, but the private sector has to be involved as a way to bring together the public and the private sectors together. And like you said, collaborations and partnerships are very necessary to put in standards. So the way that it has the way that we have to progress is by collaboration and partnerships to create standards, and then those standards can then be the groundwork for innovation. That will be productive for everyone.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the standards is a great point there, David. I think that's something that we are starting to see more and more of the industry and a wider adoption of those standards. However, there'll always be the different innovators out there that want to push their own standards and challenge existing standards. So it's always a catch-22 game. The final thing I'll call on there, right? The pilot projects. I think one of the challenges that we've had in the industry is that pilot projects have been a lot of like fishing expeditions, right? That we only hear when they fail and there's a grand failure, and then it sort of smears the industry as far as blockchain and its use case. There's a lot of small wins that happen that we don't often hear of, and I think that's part of the challenge, because the discussion and the conversation is usually on the output effect of what the technology had, not on the underlying use case. So I hope that as we go on, right, that some of these fishing expeditions turn into much more concrete use cases, and there's a very clear value prop as to how blockchain and the tech enabled that particular use case.
Yes, and I think that's what we'll do. Like I said, what we'll do in upcoming workshops and different types of lessons that we can provide is we don't have the time for it here, but I'd like to explore that and talking about the pilot projects that are successful and the case studies that have gained traction and have moved forward, and that we can talk about in depth with the right community that's interested.
Yep.
Yes. And then we want to basically that's kind of like a wrap for this talk. So basically, there's a lot of resources that are out there. There's plenty of resources that are out there. There's a lot of best practices, and there's a lot of papers that are being written up on it. We want to touch this and have this as the beginning of the conversation, not the end.
Yep, and I'll add real quick that there's still some foundational technology that we have yet to some foundational tech that still has yet to become more commonplace, right? It's still on the novel side. Decentralized identities have been around for a long time. So fundamentally, as a concept, it's not new, but building an actual decentralized identity solution on a distributed network that is completely autonomous, potentially with a DAO and self-governing and all those things. We are now, I think, in this last year or two, starting to see more and more of those networks start to gain popularity, and those come out. The integrations with those decentralized networks and their wallets is also a key part. And then additionally, there's the technology called zero knowledge proofs, which is the ability to answer a question and say yes or no without revealing the underlying data. That's a very key factor in healthcare, being able to prove, for example, that I do have a back injury without revealing exactly what the back injury is. In certain medical cases, makes sense. You don't need to reveal all the information. So those technologies are still, again, part of the stack, right? They're a component that we use, adding to the complexity that is existing in the deployment. And so we are seeing blockchain networks with those and the best practices that they share. And so those deployments will become much easier for developers to adopt. So I believe that we still have probably a good 2 years to maybe 3 before we see a lot of the healthcare use cases. But by all means, it's something that we need to continue digging into and validating the technology stack. That's it. That's the last piece I wanted to put in there. Thank you, David. All right, that's it. Should we end the stream there? Or is there anything else we want to cover?
Yes, yeah, we can end the stream there, and that's great. Thank you very much. And basically, sure. yeah. So basically, I want to thank Shai for coming on, and what we want to do is we'll just wrap it up from there, and what we want to try to do is use this like Shai and we were talking about is we'll talk about more things in specific down the road. But blockchain and healthcare is a very tricky issue, but we want to make sure that people know the basics and know that there are solutions out there, and there's people working on them. So want to thank you very much for coming on and listening, and then check out our station and check out Shai's channel and subscribe to our channels on YouTube. We both have YouTube shows. And so we want to thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks. Bye.